Hello, stranger. It's been a minute since we last kicked. We walked away, just got in town. And I won't let cumulus clouds all in the sky ruin my vibe. Usually I don't do this often, but since recruiting isn't an option due to unusual rain and thunder, baby I wonder, would you just put your sweats on me? Yeah. I got the plug, I made the call for me. I'm talking late night for you. Let me lay a great time on you. Don't hesitate, no, don't you? Just say you will.
Come through and chill. Just say you will. Hey. Come through and chill. Hey. How is everybody? Welcome to Earth is School. Welcome. Come in, tribe. Welcome to EIS, 6 p.m. Eastern Time every single day. How are you guys? Where are you listening from? Hey, Tenabe. I love that name. Welcome to Earth is School. How are you guys? Y'all know I be jamming to my intro song, and somebody left a comment and was like, "You are so talented. You dance so well. You're this and that." But it was like, but that singing is not matching. I'm like, oh my God. So now every time I jam to the intro, I'm cracking up because I'm thinking about that comment. I'm thinking about how I really be over here like almost forgetting that I'm coming on this show because I really be so into the song. Hey, ma'am Sinclair, how are you? DMV in the house. If you guys are in here, let me see some thumbs up, please. Let's let YouTube know that as soon as I go live, it's lit. If you love Earth is School, if you appreciate this show, if you want to see me grow, then please let me see those thumbs up. Welcome. For those of you who are listening for the first time, my name is De La Soul. I am your amazing YouTube host, and this is my daily podcast, Earth is School. This is the show where I talk about all things mind, all things earth, all things human, all things, all things manifesting, and just really real topics. And I break them down. My forte is to break things down in simple terms. I like to take things that are really complicated and make them simple. And so that's what we do here on Earth is School. And we learn and we grow and we breathe. And we're just getting started, y'all. There's so many things happening. Welcome. I'm going to give y'all a little bit more time. Today's show is for co-parents. It's for people that are co-parenting, or people that know people that are, but really it's for everybody. Every subject I feel like is for everybody because we're all a collective. And if it's not you in that personal situation, then you know someone that is, you know, maybe you're appointed to guide or advise someone that is. If my throat sounds weird, it's because this water almost went down the wrong windpipe. So I have to kind of clear my throat. But yes, I'm excited about today's episode because this is a needed subject and an overdue subject. And so, what the subject is, it is about co-parenting. And I want to talk about, I want to introduce different rules and ways that I have when it comes to co-parenting. My own philosophies based on my experience and books that I've read. I was married for a lot of years, and in that marriage, I was the stepmother of someone, and I feel like I got like that perspective of like a blended family, like raising someone else's child as my own and dealing with their biological parent, you know, their absent mother, and then also on in the position that I am in now as a single mother. So I just think that is, you know, two totally different scenarios, but perspectives, like, you know, different perspectives on like blending families, co-parenting and stuff like that. So I just got some good things to share with that. And I'm looking for moderators too. I need some moderators, y'all. Because people be coming in here being weird sometimes. Okay. So um my first thing that I want to talk about, because this is a crazy thing to me, like the way that we approach co-parenting is so interesting. Um, on a large scale, at least, especially for what the culture that I'm from, the Western world, um, on a large scale, we just really don't like, we just do it in the most unhealthy way. I don't know how I mean, not everybody's situation is where you were once a family with that person, but the ones who are co parenting with people who were once a family, it's amazing the way that we go from family and love and all this, and then just because we split up, now we're enemies or we're in competition, and I don't want you to make it as much as da, 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 you know, all this stuff. I'm trying to show you that I can one up on you financially and with my new partner. I mean, this is really a thing. I seen it um back whenever I was married. I remember talking about this, like, wow, like what is going on? And then, you know, experiencing it, you know, and some of my own connections, I'm like, what in the world? Like, why do we do this? Um, and the conclusion and really what this is about, I mean, it's the subject is co-parenting, but it's really the subject is children. This is about children. And my point in this episode is to break down how toxic co-parenting can be and how much the reasoning is we're just not putting the children first. Clearly, because if you're in competition with your ex or with the person that you made the child with, you're just not thinking about the child. And so I want to put, or let me say, I want to encourage for parents to put their themselves in their children's position. Am I saying that right? Put yourself in your child's position in everything that you do when it comes to your child and the opposite parent, whether they're absent or sometimes or whatever. Put yourself in that child's position. Put yourself in that child's position. I don't think that we do that enough, and I think that if we did, we would make less selfish decisions. So one of the things that we do is we talk down about the opposite parent in front of the kids. And this has got to be like, if we can make a list of like 10 most toxic things on earth, 10 most toxic things on earth, this is one of them. Because it's just like, where are you thinking? And forgive me if you are one of these parents, forgive me, because you know I'm not spoon feeding. You know, we don't spoon feed on this show. Like, I'm giving y'all it raw, right? I'm giving y'all I'm talking to you guys like I talk to myself when I need to be accountable and when I need to realize things within myself. And if you are a parent that is talking about your child or your children's opposite parent whenever they're not around or whatever, if you're doing that in front of your kids, you are being extremely unhealthy. You are being extremely toxic, and you are creating resentment and anger and confusion in the child. That is a fact. So what you're going to hear me say throughout this episode is the children come first. Protect the children. Protect the children. There's a book that I'm writing about protecting children. And even though when you hear protecting children, it sounds like we're talking about protecting them from harm's way as far as like strangers and family members and, physical things. But it goes so much deeper than that. That's one level. But we have to protect our children's mind and their hearts. The adults that we talk about are the children that we're raising, that we're damaged. The adults that we talk about all the time are like, oh my God, you're narcissistic. Oh, you're doing this, you're doing that. Oh, why did you do this? Why do you gaslight me? Yada yada yada. These are the children whose parents were talking down about their opposite parent. I mean, this is just one example. But we end up raising these adults that we're talking about. So I just can't stress that enough. Don't talk about your children's opposite parent in front of them. This should be a major thing because you have to think about how you would feel in this position, and you have to think about how. I mean, it's really hard to think from this perspective, but children want to hear good things about their parent because even though it doesn't seem like it, because we think kids are just kids and they don't really think, kids are actually very deep thinkers. They think on an abstract level, literally from with the right side of their brain. So their thinking cannot even, like, you can't even match the thought process of a child. Like, you think you can, because you have ego and you're an adult, and we've been trained that adults know everything, which is, we found out when we got older that was a lie, right? So there's definitely a deeper perspective or deeper things that children see in their thought process. And while you're looking from the outside in, this child is seeing or hearing about their parents, and they're thinking about themselves because that's a part of them. And they don't need science to tell them that. Think about how you have felt with your parent. Like, even as a child, like, that's your reflection. Kids know that. That's why they admire us. That's why they want to be just like us. In the beginning, adults we're the ones that shake that up for them. But when they first come through here, like them first 7 years, anything we say goes. Like, they want to be just like us. They want to do like us. They're copying our every move. They're sponges, right? They adore us. We are their saviors, their heroes. So, even if it's been an absent parent, and I know how you feel, that is not like, your child still sees that parent as the reflection of them. So if you're saying to this child, oh, you just like your daddy, oh, your daddy just be lying, or, oh, just like your mama be doing this, the child is internalizing this. It's just like labeling a child as bad and expecting that to make them good. They're going to be what you say that they're going to be. They're going to exalt that because words are powerful, and children are such open vessels. They're the easiest vessels to manipulate. We know that on every level. So it's really important to be careful in not doing that. Um, so I kind of skipped ahead because I talked about the competition thing. That was a subject, and I wanted to mention with that instead of the mindset of being in competition with the parent that you're co-parenting with, um, my personal mindset, and it doesn't matter what my kid's father did to me, because it's just not about that. I just can't stress how much I care more about their journey and how they love and how they're going to perceive the world. So instead of me being in competition with you, I really need you to make it. Like, I can't be competing with you because I need you to be successful, because you are half of my child. So you're such a big matter. Like, you're such a big factor in their lives. Your parents are a big factor to you. The two people who came together and made you make the biggest difference. They make the first difference, and they make such a big imprint on you. So not only am I not going to be in competition with you, but I need you to make it, bruh. Like I need, like, let's get this together. Whatever it is, if I can help, let me help, because I have a child with you, and you are a part of my child, like vice versa. So let me see. I want to make sure I'm not missing any comments. Janico, welcome, welcome. So yes, it plays a huge part in how they end up in their memories, everything when it comes to that. And that's my main thing. I care about what my children's memories are, what their minds are, what they are perceiving. So it's really important to, put your ego to the side and put yourself in your children's positions, being that they do see a direct reflection of you and of the other parent. So I talked about them feeling it. And yeah, I also mentioned, like, how do you feel about your parents, about the relationship that you have with your parents is so huge. Like this is the thing, like the way we try to downplay, the way we're so selfish often about the relationship between our kids and their opposite parent. And the way we try to downplay that, like we try to regulate and control that. But what about the relationship with your parents? It's such an elephant in your room. It's a major thing. It comes out when you're pregnant. It comes out when you're dealing with sicknesses and certain things. It's just always coming out. It comes out in every relationship or every intimate relationship that you have. The things that took place between you and your parents come out. So it's amazing how we try to downplay. We be like, oh, well, they don't have to see them, or they don't have to, we don't have to do this, or let me do this and do that. But no, like it really matters for your child. That's who it matters for. And when you are speaking on the opposite parent in front of your children feel a sense of security when they hear a parent speaking positive about their other parent. Children feel a sense of security. And I know that might sound crazy, but it's the truth, especially if they've never seen you two together. But even if they have, it just feels secure. Like you just feel more secure in this world when you know that your parents are at least getting along. It's just a psychological fact that while the parents are arguing and going crazy, that's what the chaos is stirring up inside of the child. We know that children who experience divorce with their parents are often suicidal. They often they feel like it's their fault. So there's a lot of blaming that they do. This tells you how much of a difference it makes on the way that you speak about their parents. They want to hear that they came through here from something good, from good connections with their parents. They often want to know at least, like, and this is for if your children have an absent parent. They will want to know things like, what were their hobbies? What did you like about them? What were some of their talents? I mean, some people are going to try to downplay this. Like, well, I didn't want to know that about but if you don't, like, if you end up not wanting to know any of these things your whole entire life about your parent, that's coming from a hurt place. Because the truth is that you do. When you are not hurting, that is the other part of you. So these are things that children want to know about their opposite parent, even if they're absent, or I mean, especially because if they're not absent, then they will most likely know, right? So I feel the same thing with my parents. I never got to see my parents together, but except for my wedding, they walked down the aisle together and they kind of conversed together for those few days. And when I moved here, like now, from that time until now, me moving here actually brought my parents together because they were not together by the time I was born. And so I am a whole adult here. And I can say that after 34 years, or in my 34th year still, my parents' relationship makes a difference with me. like I feel, okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I told y'all my throat is doing the thing. But I feel a sense of security. I feel a sense of love and joy and ease. It's not like if my parents weren't talking, I would feel insecure. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that I know the difference. I know the difference in them not speaking for however many years, or not speaking that I know of, or not speaking on behalf of me or anything, versus them being in a connection. And even before they were speaking, just hearing them speak highly of each other. I've always heard my parents speak highly of each other, and that has made an impact on me. That has made a difference. And I'm grown as heck, and it still makes a difference. I still love to hear, while my dad is in his relationship and doing his thing, my mom is doing her thing. I still love to hear my parents' stories about how they felt about each other, how in love they were, how they used to make each other feel. I watched the way my dad goes off into space and kind of daydreams, and it's a beautiful feeling. It doesn't mean that I wish they were together, but it feels good to know that I was born out of that. And sometimes we're not born out of that. And so the least that you can do for your children is, if you have a connect, or if you had a connection with their mom or their dad, is give them some type of memory, give them some type of like, oh, well, they looks good and this, and they love to do this, because these things do make a difference. They do play a part in who we end up feeling like we can be. So another thing about not having to talk down on the parent, because there's so many details to this, it goes pretty deep. Some people feel like they have a right to, because the opposite parent has came in with chaos and maybe kicked them out the house. Like, there's a lot of different scenarios that the children has seen, so you almost feel like, I need to say something, right? And maybe you do, but you don't have to go there. And sometimes you feel like, sometimes we feel like we need to talk about the other parent so that the child will know the truth. Like, right, we're like, we need them to know, especially if this parent is sometimesy. We don't want them just coming in and just looking, being able to reap the benefits of being the good guy, the good parent. Didn't have to be there for all the hard stuff. Didn't have to be the quote unquote bad guy, the it's time for bed and you can't have this, you can't do that. But then they come in and they get to just be like this good saint parent. This is a natural feeling that a lot of parents have in co-parenting. I coach on this. This is a normal thing that people come to me for. So I know how prevalent this is, and I'm just here to tell you that that's an illusion. You don't have to talk about your children's opposite parent or absent parent, because children know. Like, we don't give kids enough credit. Kids know who fuck with them and who don't. Believe it or not, you really don't need to explain that to them, because a child's love language is attention and time. So they can easily calculate, like, they don't need your help to calculate who's around and who's not, who's giving them attention and who's not. And children act off of that. Whether we're talking about really small kids to middle-sized to older kids, they act off of that. Like, parents, like, after a while, absent parents feel awkward, because it's such a reflection, because we know that these kids are open and honest. So you don't have to explain really anything when it comes to that. You don't have to talk down on them and tell them and remind them of the details and tell them how absent they are, because they really do know. I think my music was like so loud right now. But they really do know. And one of the ways that I learned this, I actually first heard this in a book when I was a stepmom. I was going through a lot, because the person that I was or the child that I was stepmothering had a really toxic mother, and she was absent, and she was embarrassed about her absence. So she would come in. This is very common too. She didn't want anyone to know, like, the true story, like that she was really like running from us. So she would come in and she would pretend. Like, she would come in every once in a while and she would pretend. She would pretend to be this parent, and and then also the hardship about co-parenting is that you live different lives. Like you raise your children, your household is different. I am very particular about my household. I'm very, very particular about the way that, like, the environment that I set up, the the no TV all day, no cursing at my kids or around them, the we have a libraries, the way we eat. Like there's just a certain ambiance and energy that I have for my children. So this is not about control. This is about, I don't even know. Like this is about my our life, like what I'm setting up for them. So the trick or the challenge with co-parenting is when you're setting up a certain way, and then you have to allow that child to go out of that environment, out of the routine or whatever else it is that you've been setting up for them, and then they gotta, they go there and they come back and you gotta restart again. So I was going through a lot. I actually went to find this book. I can't remember what this book was called, but it had something to do with being a stepmom. And this book is the book that helped me to realize that when this child that I loved as my own would come back into our environment, from dealing with a really, opposite environment, I didn't have to, and not that I was at all, but I did start to feel, and she was doing a lot of that. She was doing a lot of like, well, when you go back home, make sure you call her this and tell her this and all of this. And so it was really starting to pull on me. Like every time he had to go, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. I'm gonna have to start all over with the routine. I'm gonna have to do this and do that. He's coming back with this attitude. It's a whole different thing. And so it started to make me feel some kind of way. And the book talked about this. I will never forget this example that the author gave. She said that she was raising a child as her own, and he ended up going off to the military for training. And when you go off for training, you can only speak to like two people, or you only got like a few people on the call log. And so instead of him choosing, I can't remember if he chose his father or his biological mom, but I do know that one of those people that he chose was his stepmother, and she was the one that had been present. And so she gave that example and talked about how children know, like you don't have to. And I think she said she even asked, yeah, she ended up asking him, like, what was it that made you, not choose either your mother or your father? I can't remember which one. But he was just like, what? Like, what you mean? Like, you the one that's been here. Like, you the one, you've been you've made such a difference in my life. You've been active in my life. You've given me the attention. And she just talked about the emotions that came over her and all that. So I learned that first through that book, and then I experienced it myself with the same scenario. And so I just never felt like, going on and parenting my own children, I just never felt like I needed to say anything pertaining to like proving to them that I'm the parent that stayed or I'm the parent that's here and stuff, because kids really do know. They really don't need us for that. Yes, right? A child's love language is attention and time. That's it. That's how simple they are. So they don't need us to tell them about the other parent. They can see. I mean, of course, you should still talk to them about it, but you don't have to talk down on them or talk negatively. Um, so another thing that is really huge, and this is funny because, ooh, this is growth, because I used to be the parent. If you feel like this, first of all, let me say before I even say it that I totally feel you, because I was a huge advocate of what I'm about to share. I really was. And then my experience these last few years has changed my mind. And so it is the whole idea that okay, there's an absent parent and I need to protect my child. So I am not going to just allow this parent to come in and out as they please. I'm laughing, y'all, because first of all, I'm so big on like, and I should have mentioned that in the beginning. I'm not that parent keeping my children from the opposite parent. Like that's not my thing. That's just something I don't do. They never have to worry about me being like, oh, well, you ain't never gonna see your kids or something. Like, no, that's not happening because I'm thinking about my children. So I say that to say that while I always have been that way, I also stood firm. And maybe it was my experience raising a child as my own and seeing, when you see a child being let down because they think that the parent is coming or they think that they're going to show up, it does something to you. So I definitely was so diehard about that. I was just like, if the person is coming in and out, it's better for them. It's better for the child to not even know them than to deal with the pain of knowing them sometimes. This was my philosophy. So if you agree with that, then I feel you. I feel you so much. I totally understand. But it's like, I don't know. Like, all I can say is growth, because after a while, you just begin to not care about that. Like, as much as I thought, I mean, that's still, you're thinking about the child, but then there's still a level of selfishness to that. And it's the intentions of the selfishness is great because your intentions are, I'm protecting my child. When I say selfish on this level, I don't mean like you're thinking about you, you're thinking about your child totally. But then there's a level of thinking about your child that you're not doing. Because in the end, if your child, not only if your child wants to see their parent, but your child needs to be able to see their parent. If they're not harming them, if they're not toxic, of course. If bringing them in doesn't mean chaos, then even if there's sometimes is what I'm saying, even if they haven't been there for 6 years, for however many years, even if them coming in and then they might not be around for the next few months, is it really better for them to have not had that experience at all with them? Like, not even know what their reflection looks like or what it feels like to be around them, to not even be able to hold on to maybe a conversation that they were able to have with them or whatever. I feel like after some years of, um, I don't know, just growth and not having that connection, not your children not having the connection with the opposite parent, you just don't care about that anymore. Even though I'm still all for protecting the children. Like I said, if it's chaotic, if it's drama, something like that, then I understand you protecting them by keeping them away. But if it's like, well, I don't want you to just be able to come in as you please. Yeah, just let them come in as they please then. Like, let them be in their kid's life still. Like, that's the basic line of it. Again, if they are not damaging them. And we could argue that there is some damage in doing that. We could argue that. But if you are talking to your children about acceptance, if you're talking to them about accepting, which is a really important conversation for all people that are co-parenting, or if you are a single parent, you need to be talking to your kids about accepting everyone's journey. It's really important that you mention to them, on a grand scale, that their absent parent is not a personal thing, it has nothing to do with them. It's a hurt people kind of thing. That's a really, really important conversation that should be continuous. I'm so grateful to have the experience that I had with my ex's child, because that's what taught me how to have those conversations. I had no idea that I was um, preparing, to have these conversations with my own children. But having, raising a child, him have his absent, his mom being absent, and there was a real, we would have real conversations about how he felt. And it really helped me to be able to understand a child, like what a child goes through from that perspective. And it's like, so what if they want to come in a few times a year? Again, if they're not causing chaos, just let the kids have that experience a few times a year. Because if you're teaching them that this person is doing their own thing and they're on their own journey, then you don't have anything to worry about. And it's so much better than the feeling of, my parents never came around, they never called, they never cared, it was just a never thing. It's actually better to be like, well, it happens sometimes. then this motherfucker just had no care at all for me. And maybe that is some of your children's realities too, which is again why this conversation is important. You know, we keeping it all the way 100. Sometimes that is the reality. But when it's not, push your pride to the side and just so what if the parent comes in and it looks like they're looking like the good guy right now? The kids know. So again, put yourself in your children's perspective, in their position. Um, a lot of times we don't want the parent who hasn't had to do. Yeah, so I mentioned that hasn't had to do the hard work and stuff. Um, the main thing that the takeaway from this episode that I want people to grasp is that children are more important than us. Children are more important than us. So the getting caught up in the ego, the arguing, the competition, all of that, the who's better, who has more finances, seeing parents compete about finances is the most cringy thing to me, because why would you want your child's parent, their other parent, to be poor? Like, why do you want them to financially struggle? I can never understand that. Under no circumstances do I want to see my children's fathers struggling. It's just not a good look for us. It's not a good look for them. I don't want that for them. For my children, I'm saying. I don't want that for them. So I don't understand that. People really be getting off on the opposite parent needing and not having. And it's the creepiest thing to me, especially if you've been in a relationship with them. Check your loyalty. Check your loyalty, because if y'all were in a relationship and y'all were calling yourselves family at one point, like, ugh, this is like, you need a counselor. Seriously, I'm sorry, but that is just so ridiculous to wish bad upon the person that you had a child with financially. Like, even like, I understand people doing things because people are toxic, so I'm not negating any of that. I'm not saying that you wouldn't wish bad and feel certain ways with people actually doing stuff, but I mean, like, y'all had an ugly breakup, okay, whatever, but it's like, let this person be in the kid's life, like, that's really what it's about. Only way I gotta check myself on wishing bad on you is if I am feeling hurt about your absence. If that is my vibration, then that's it. But if it was an ugly breakup and you was doing this and you cheated and like all of that, like, no, it's gonna have to be the subject of our children that would make me feel anyway, because that's the priority. And so I just want to put that on the forefront, that we just don't put children enough, and like, we don't put them first enough. And even on the scale of the collective, like in the world, a lot of times we're talking about single moms and we're focused on like, oh, she's single. Why is she single? How many fathers does she have the kids with? All this shit that's not relevant. Are you loving on these kids? Are you mentoring them? If you see somebody that is single and they have kids, are you just judging and talking about them, or are you seeing if you can spend some time giving the kids light, because these kids are the future. These children are going to be mating with your children. These children are going to be your children's bosses and the people that they choose to have a life with. So while you're focused on something that is not even important at all, like what their parents did, focus on the future, which is the kid. And I just think that we don't do that enough. We get so caught up in the 3D of like scenarios and like the ego of like who did what, who said what is one doing with so and so. And the only thing that matters is the kids. Like, nothing else even matters when you think about it. Nothing else matters but kids. And I feel like if we did this, it would be so much peace in co-parenting that kids wouldn't even have to really suffer. Like, the truth is that relationships end. That's reality. Everyone who has a child with someone is not meant to be with them. Contrary to a lot of people's weird ass judgmental belief, there's a lot of relationships that need to end to save, like, for safety, like, it's a lot of relationships that were not supposed to last. So let divinity take place in relationships ending, but do they have to be so traumatic for the kids? Like, can't both parents just get along? I know that sounds so simple, but seriously, if we put the kids first and we really thought about it from the standpoint that I am bringing it on the children being the future, on protecting the children, your partner that you're with, your friend that you fell out with, and whatever other scenario that you have with adults, a lot of that is these children that I'm talking about that weren't protected. Their hearts were not protected. They were neglected and abandoned. Their parents were caught up in being in competition, showing up and showing out. And so it's a really, really important thing for us to grasp the concept that, I mean, honestly, I know that some people don't agree with this, but everybody is like, it takes a village. Every child, you should see every child as your child, not, to the degree where you're going to, volunteer to raise someone else's kids. But the way that I see children is every child is my child. I just see children as children. And I actually feel bad for children because I've always felt bad for kids. When I was a kid, I felt bad for kids because adults are really like, we're really out of it. Like we really fuck up. Like we really fail. Adults really fail. I mean, think about it. Every generation of elders or adults complains about the last one and totally is not accountable about their place in how that last generation could have gotten like that. We just blame it on other stuff. Going all the way back in history to present day, there's really no generations that are like accountable. Like we did this. Like, how do you raise up a generation and then talk down on it? It's got to be like, this is not even a debate. It's obviously you're not being accountable. So adults really do fail. We have so much ego. I mean, think about how today's parents are compared to the ones before, the ones that raised us, or our grandparents, the ones who raised them. There was a lot of not considering mental health for children, the abuse of whooping your kids. That's a whole another episode. But the abuse of telling your kids, I love you, that's why I put my hands on you. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. You don't have enough nerves to get, all these things. Like, they used to write in books that children really didn't have, like, memory and brain. Like they really didn't have all their neurons that was needed to, like, form a thought, to form a complete thought. So we've actually gotten a lot better on that scale. We consider children a lot more than we did, but just look at the way that adults have done this. We have really failed to protect the children. So considering that children are the future, and that the way, like, when we talk about a child being a sponge, this has a lot to do with that, because what do sponges do? They absorb, right? I don't think we really realize what we say when we say that. I don't think that adults really understand that when we say, oh, children are sponges, we need to literally picture that yellow and green sponge. Picture that you done spilt something on the floor or in your refrigerator, and now you got the sponge. We have to get this detailed because there's so many different levels that we don't really connect the dots to how our children take in this energy from the way that we're speaking in front of them, as far as their opposite parent and the things that we're exposing them to. So protect the children, protect all children. I think that is a really important word. Oh, it's 44 minutes. Yes, your girl's on time. So that's pretty much it, you guys. I just wanted to go over some of these philosophies and thought processes. I think it's just really important to, if you are co-parenting with someone and it's chaos and it makes you want to get into your ego and it makes you want to be like, well, I don't want you coming in and doing this and yada, yada, yada. Of course, don't dismiss those feelings, but think about the kids first and meditate on this. Meditate on the fact that the truth is that this stuff, like these subjects, or this subject, I should say, it feels like such a big thing right now. But your kids are going to be grown. Like your kid is going to be off and grown and living its life. So it won't even be, like the time is going to pass. You don't have to try and control everything with this scenario. You can really breathe. You don't have to try and control everything in this scenario. You can really breathe. You can protect your children. You can, pray over them, put protection over them, and then still, obviously don't just be, like I said, if it's chaotic and stuff like that, I'm not saying to let them in their life, but definitely watch the way that you speak about them around your children, and try to have a more softened heart for them to be able to be into their life, because the whole mission is to make the world a better place. And the only way that we can do that is through children. The only way that we can make the world a better place is through not, basically avoiding some of the things that we end up having to heal from as adults. So I hope that made sense for you guys. My throat is still doing its thing. Let me know if you guys have any questions or anything that you want to share and add to this. This had been a big subject that I've been wanting to talk about for a minute. I've had a lot of messages about confusion on co-parenting. And trust me, I get it. I get it. I get it because I was there. I was there trying to control everything and just with the intentions of protecting. But it's really not, you really don't have to do that much. If it's not something where the children can be harmed, they are protected. And if you're speaking to them about it, if you're being verbal with them, they are protected, and they're going to have a really mature, broad understanding of co-parenting and or the absent parent if you do those things. If you talk to them about acceptance, all that good stuff. Please, you guys, thumbs up if you like this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, thumbs up and share if you think this is helpful for some people. I have so many subjects to talk about when it comes to co-parenting and single parenting. I think one thing that is good to do, because we sleep on why parents get so like angry and aggressive, or whatever you want to call it, passionate when it comes to the opposite parent. People don't understand that, like when we say like I don't play about my kids, like that's the thing. Like people don't play about their kids. So when we're calling single parents and people that are co-parenting and having issues, when we're calling them bitter because they're talking about it and they're repeating it and they're trying to process things, we're really just not being considerate, because people don't play about their kids. This is why I'm able to talk about this, because I've come such a long way. I do not play about my children. And when I say that, I mean that in a physical, mental, spiritual, every old way. I am always trying to protect them in every way, because that is my job. I do not feel ashamed about that at all. No one can make me feel bad about trying to protect them in every way, because that's my job until they go off to be adults. So I get it, but it's so much easier to co-parent. It's so much easier to deal with the absent parent when your heart is softened. So if you need to say the mother's name, the absent mother's name, or the absent father's name, and if you need to give the affirmation or the declaration of I love you, I forgive you, I'm sorry, I accept the purpose of our connection. if you need to say that every day, just to soften your heart, just to make yourself be less toxic. Because please don't talk about them in front of them babies. Don't do it. You're not doing nothing but stirring up chaos inside of them. And my children have to mate with your children. So that's another reason for this episode, okay? I'll be looking around like, what are my kids going to do? What are the options that they have, okay? So let's consider that. Look, let's consider that. Like y'all know how I am, like about the village and about this kind of thing, like generational wealth and passing on these things. So I'm like, look, if don't nothing else help you, think about how it's only a certain collective of us who are even like consciously and intentionally raising our children. It's only a certain pool of us. So let's do our kids a favor and raise them right so that they can, mate with people that aren't so messed up. So they can mate with people that aren't like the people that we're dealing with all the time. Adults that were never corrected, that were never loved on correctly. Okay. That's the word, guys. This was Earth is School. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Please share and like. Hit the super thanks button, all that good stuff. Let YouTube know. I don't even know what that says. I'm trying to read a comment. Hey, Ozzy. Welcome. I just got done talking about co-parenting and kind of like a blend of like co-parenting and being a single parent and how we should approach this with more ease and less control. How much you don't have to stress about the opposite parent and their antics. If they are not causing harm, if they are causing harm, you might need to detach that connection for a little bit. But this is not speaking of someone who is causing chaos. This episode was about someone that you are just having to deal with, and it's not an obvious cutoff type thing. Okay, fellow YouTuber. All right, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this again. I love you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Earth is School. Don't forget that. Peace out.